Okay, so like we did last week, I'm going to stick to this format until someone tells me that they prefer a different format. For the review, I'm going to read through the text of the Shulchan Aruch itself, translate it, and then stop along the way to consult with my, trust me, modern, updated halacha handbook to give us insight that's not directly in the Shulchan Aruch. Some of which will be in the summaries and in the notes on the side, but some of it will not. So let's go through it. So today's Gimel Daled Hey, as I mentioned on Sunday in our introduction, Gimel number 3 really belongs with 1 and 2, or with 2 specifically, because 1 was transference of flavor through pickling, 2 and 3 are transference of flavor through cooking, and 2 cooking together, and in 3 cooking by something falling into something else, and then 4 and 5 and 6, even though 6 is part of next week's quota, but 4, 5, and 6 are all about dry cooking, meaning cooking without liquid. So it would be called grilling or baking or roasting, but not in a pot of liquid.
Makes sense that
so Gimel belongs really to Beis, and then Daled Hey Vav together. Whatever they divide it like this. And so this week we're doing Gimel Daled Hey 3, 4, and 5. Next week is going to be 6, 7, 8, and then we're taking a break till after Tishrei. That's what the syllabus says. Mm-hmm. So you have the week off before Rosh Hashanah
or we
preparation.
We can do a slowly go through it. Would you want to like?
We could do Chazzarah maybe next week. Like we'll use that extra week to review the last 6.
Well, it gives us time to review what we started already, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
we can review, and then we can also slowly go ahead of them.
Yeah, go ahead, no problem. So the oil trip is between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, but there's a week before Rosh Hashanah which we're off officially, and then afterwards we're starting right after Shabbos Bereshis. So how much time is there between SEMICHA and Shabbos Bereshis? I don't think it's a few days, maybe. Yeah, okay. Right? Then Parshas Noach, the Sunday right after Bereshis, we start again. Sorry?
Simchas Torah must be like a Tuesday, Wednesday.
Something like that. It's usually the same day as Rosh Hashanah, right?
It's off from the week.
Yeah, so it's a Wednesday.
Next week is the next 1 week of learning, and the week after that, which is the week preceding Rosh Hashanah, is only 4 days. It's only 4 or 5 days that we're off. It's only right. Rosh Hashanah, sorry, it's less than 4 days. Rosh Hashanah is 2 days. 2 days.
Monday night, yeah.
So there's nothing there.
The trip after.
Yeah. So next week learning, and the week then we continue after Simchas Torah. But during Tishrei, if you have time, you want to review the last. I also want to spend the time during Tishrei to check in with everybody and see how we did in terms of pacing wise, and in terms of like style, and in terms of the structure of how our classes are going vis-a-vis the chavrutas and whether people are keeping up and how it's going. And then if I need to shift focus after Tishrei, we'll do that. Okay. All right. So let's begin then. Gimel, halacha Gimel. Nafal isur cham l'toicheter cham. Dekli rishon. So prohibited hot food fell into a dish of hot food, which is permissible, heter, and it's kli rishon, so they are both hot of the first order of direct heat, kli rishon, yafilu, or even iser tzoinen, the prohibited is cold, and it fell into l'toicheter cham, to a dish of hot permitted food, hakol aser, everything is forbidden, because the lower, in this case, the kosher dish, overpowers, dominates the upper, the thing that fell in, whether it's cold or hot, forbidden stuff, heats it up, so that it will exfoliate, I think that's the right word, it'll emit flavor, bitachten, into the lower dish, which is the kosher dish, and therefore everything becomes prohibited. Because it's cooking directly in a kli rishon, even though they're not cooking together, and it's only the lower dish that's cooking, but the lower dish overpowers, and therefore when something is inserted, everything's being cooked together. That's the bottom line. Okay? So a few practical stuff that happen here. So first of all, it doesn't make a difference which one is bigger, whether the dish on the bottom is bigger than the thing on top or not. So if you have a hot bowl of milk and a larger piece of meat that comes in, it wouldn't make a difference. So the size does not matter in this regard. Unless it's 60 times the ratio, yeah. But even in the case of 60 times the ratio, as we're going to learn later in the SIF, you still have to cut off the point of contact, right? Right? You still have to peel off the point of contact.
What if it's fully immersed?
So then, if it's fully immersed, and which one's 60 times which?
The pot. 60 times
the pot.
The milk is 60 times the meat.
Okay, so because it's a liquid, you're saying.
Yeah.
So you mentioned this, it's going to come up inside the Beis, whether or not we say, with respect to, we'll come up actually a little bit soon also, whether we say, how do you deal with peeling in a liquid? Like you can't peel off any edge in a liquid. How do you deal with that? It's going to come up, and it's going to come up also in Siman Tzadik Beis in chapter 92 when we get to that, which I think is actually next in the syllabus. I think it's Tzadik Beis. That's the parallel in Basa B'Chalav, right? In Tzadik Beis is after Kofei. Yeah, we go to Tzadik Aleph and then Tzadik Beis. Okay, 91, 92, which are going to be like the parallels of this one in the milk and meat section. Okay. Furthermore, it should be stated that the lower one overpowers only such that it makes the one on top exfoliate and absorb, but doesn't then actually render that piece of meat hot. And therefore, if something fell on top of that, it's not as if it would transfer forward,
Okay. Yeah.
right? Because it doesn't turn it hot, it just makes it absorb and extract and let out, and it doesn't actually make it hot. Having said that, however, if you stacked a bunch of things on top of something hot, then the heat, and it was fatty, then the heat would travel upward. So if you had, let's say, a stack of cheese that fell into a hot piece of meat, all the cheese would be non-kosher, not just the bottom ones touching it. Okay? Especially if meat is fatty on the bottom, so it's liquidy. Okay.
Because you just don't know where it got to. Like
Sorry?
you can't contain it. You don't know where it got to.
Something like that, yeah. We consider the lower to cook all that's above it. Yeah. Okay, and therefore continues back to Shulchan Aruch, and therefore there's no reason to stress, obviously, the heter tzainin, that if there was cold permitted stuff that fell into, because till now we're talking about where the thing on the bottom is kosher and hot, and it's non-kosher, cold or hot that came in. So certainly the heter tzainin, that if you had cold kosher stuff that fell into l'toich iser cham, into hot non-kosher dish, a non-kosher pot, hakol us, everything's forbidden, obviously, because here the bottom is hot, plus the hot is also the prohibited, so certainly it's going to be absorbed in the kosher that falls into it. Sorry, can you say avalbat ima elyon cham, if the item falling in, the thing on top is hot, and the bottom is cold, it only prohibits up to a peel. All you gotta do is to peel. Even if there's a hot piece of non-kosher falling on top. So a non-kosher piece of meat falling on top of something kosher that is cold, all you need to do is peel the kosher item and then it's good, you're done. So the principle is the same, because the temperature of the bottom one dominates, it's cold, but in the time that it cools down, the thing that comes on top of it, it'll absorb something, and therefore you just have to peel it. Yeah? All right.
Okay, what does tzonen mean?
Cold.
Okay.
Anything I should add here? No, let's keep going. The Chalzeh continues now the Hagon. Now comes the Ramah, the Halach, the Meir Islis, the Ashkenazic glosses. The Chalzeh Le'Mardi, all of this is only in reference to B'choim Kli Rishon, where the original, the heat is of the heat of an original pot, the first keli. Going, for example, Miyache Sidim Aish, he just took the pot off the fire, and Manichem Heter, it gets placed together with that which is permissible.
What does Mairi mean? Miri?
Sorry?
Miri?
Mairi
Mairi.
is what we are discussing.
Cholzeh lo Mairi.
All this only being discussed, or only being referred to. Ella only b'choim kli rishon with the heat of a first vessel. Going, for example, miyad immediately she sidim and aish, when you remove the pot from the fire, manichem heter gets placed with the permissible. Aval but im kvar munach b'kli sheni, if now the forbidden item is already in the second vessel. V'achach maniach heter etzloi, and now the permitted gets put together with it, oil over on top of it. Eino oiser doesn't prohibit. The kli sheni eino oiser commotion is bar, because a second vessel does not prohibit at all. Anybody have any commentary on this?
You mentioned the solid would be different, right?
Okay, solid first of all, but let's just say it's not a solid. We learned in the previous sif that the Marshal disagrees. The Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah of the view that kli sheni has no properties of being able to extract or absorb, zero. Whereas the Marshal said, well, maybe it doesn't cook, but it certainly causes absorption and extraction, and therefore we would treat a kli sheni, so long as the hand recoils from it, as if it was a kli sheni, as if it was a kli rishon, and therefore either cooking completely, either extracting and completely or kedei klipa, depending on which one was hot or cold, the bottom or top.
We would consider what a kli rishon?
We
Cliche,
treat kli
Solid
sheni.
food? Okay, kli sheni
that's hot.
as
That's hot enough, correct?
And it also says you should be machmir, right? For clear rishon, it's not hot enough.
We had that. There was an opinion like that.
there's
Yeah,
an
there was an opinion like
that
that.
was the same thing. It spoke on an opinion that it says even a clear rishon that's
Which is
not hot enough.
you should still choose, yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Because like this, you could think that if, like I don't know, it's saying don't like let this confuse you and think that
Yeah.
if the clear rishon's not hot enough, you're okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's imagine now a case. Okay, let's imagine now a case. I should have done this before. Let's just imagine now a case where you have a hot pot of meat that was put on to cold slices of cheese.
Okay.
What's the halacha? Meaning you took the actual pot and placed it down on cheese.
does the cheese
Oh, the
What would you
cheese
say?
on the outside?
What would you say? If cold cheese,
tata gava.
tatagavar, the bottom is dominant,
Cold.
so the cold is dominant,
So
and it only reaches how much into the what on top of it?
But it's a pot. You
That's
said.
it.
Oh, so what's
Centimeters.
new? So it only reaches how much. So usually that which is on bottom and cold only reaches how much to that which is on top and hot. Only the amount of a
So that's a
of
little
a peel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And over here, what's your peel?
it's a
The
pot.
bottom of the pot.
The pot. So then you can take the meat out and enjoy it
Right.
because that would be your klipa, your.
And if the cheese was hot,
Now you have tatagavar, right?
it's still the pot. It's still not gonna. How's it gonna go through the bottom of the pot?
Because in that case, what happens?
Because you're gonna put it on the stove maybe, and then something will touch the stove.
It's not a maybe. Let's see 1 second. What's the if you have a bottom? Let's think of that again. You have what? You have cold dish. Oh, we're gonna get to that. A cold dish that's put onto.
What if you have a stew? You have a hot stew in a pot, and accidentally you put it on hot cheese.
But they're both hot.
They're both hot.
So will the flavor go through? I think so. I think you have a problem.
Really?
I believe so.
That's crazy.
I believe so. Yep. Yes, I believe so.
The flavor would go through the bottom of the pot and get into the
I think
stew.
so. Yep.
That's crazy.
I think so. 1 second. It's going to come up inside the base, the next track if
Okay.
we get to.
So we can wait. We can wait.
I think so. I have to get to the second. We have it here. Yeah. Okay. Now, obviously, this hot pot, which fell on top of the cold thing, the cold cheese, can still prohibit that which is on top of it, even though it's not becoming prohibited by the cheese under it. Yeah. 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 Okay. I don't know. Good question. Good question, but I think it does go through.
It's so crazy, but
Yeah. It's gonna be here in the principle of Tatagavar. Okay, let's put a pin in it.
Yeah.
Very good question. I think that's that might be the answer. Okay. Now let's discuss a little bit the deal with pouring out hot water directly from a clear. We spoke about this last time, right? That when you pour out from a hot clear and you pour directly on, right? We learned about the connection between the top and the bottom, right? And therefore, even if the stream was disconnected, we would still say that which is on bottom.
transfer to the top.
No, over here it's okay. You're pouring hot from a hot clear onto a cold something, right? So the bottom is cold,
Oh, so
top
the
is hot.
transfer out.
It's still considered a clear even though it's coming out of the clear because it's being directly
Right.
poured from the clear and therefore it has the ability to cause absorption and intake.
Right.
However, it should be noted that it doesn't do absorption and intake at once. What's the difference between absorption and intake versus absorption and intake at once? Absorption and intake in and of itself means that you have something prohibited hot being poured directly onto the cold, it absorbs.
Right.
Okay, fine.
And it transfers back.
And transfer back.
So you're saying both things would be bad.
But
If only one can happen, only one thing could be bad.
but not both directions.
right.
Which would mean if you poured hot on top of
Cold.
on top of meat and milk together. So it'd have to make the meat and milk both extract and absorb, and that it doesn't have the power to do. But if it was, let's say, cold hot milk onto the meat, then it would cause, then there's direct contact, it causes interaction. But if it's hot water, let's say, being poured onto milk and meat, it'll cause each one to exfoliate, but not enough to cause them to exfoliate and absorb.
You could say
Follow?
hot milk on cold meat.
No, then there's milk and meat interacting, then for sure it's not kosher.
No, I understand, but I'm saying
Yeah.
that would it doesn't do absorption and transference. It only does one. So only the meat would be bad. The pot would be fine.
The pot on top
Would be fine.
would be fine, yes.
Because there's only one.
Unless the
one-
bottom was hot.
If
the bottom was cold,
the bottom's
The bottom was cold, and
top,
then the milk on
there's
top wouldn't be.
absorption and extraction at the same time. So that means both things would be bad.
But say it again. If the bottom was hot, yes,
So if
correct.
the bottom is, if it's
The
hot,
bottom was hot, then both
Well,
would be
yeah.
problematic.
because then you're gonna
if
have
the bottom
absorption
is-
and extraction
correct.
at the same time. which
If
is
the,
both
that's
of
correct.
it.
So if the bottom is hot, then both the bottom and the top are problematic. If the bottom is hot, the bottom is cold, then only the bottom became a problem because it absorbed a little bit from that which is poured on top of it, right? But if you poured that hot water onto milk and meat, it wouldn't cause transference between the two because that would require to have both extraction and absorption at once.
Oh, that's
It
what
doesn't
you
do
mean.
that.
If you have like cheese and a steak next to each other,
And you pour hot water on them.
both,
Correct.
It doesn't transfer.
Correct. Right? So if you poured, yeah, that is only if the stream wasn't connected. If the stream was connected, then it does have the ability to transfer between each other. So if you were continuously pouring on top of the milk and meat and the stream never disconnected, then it would still have the power of the original heat and make the absorption go between one and the other. It's only when the stream broke that doesn't have that power to be transferred from, doesn't have the power to both extract and absorb.
So you're saying if there's a continuous stream,
Then
you're
even
pouring
if
hot
that-
milk on a cold steak and you're continuously pouring.
Then it would for sure cause, yes, then it would cause everything. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes. Right?
In that case,
No,
No.
only it would only still be appeal.
yeah,
It only still be appeal.
and the top thing would be fine.
Correct. And the top thing would be
Yeah,
fine.
it's only two hot. It's only two things that are
It's
hot.
only two, right? But if you poured hot water onto milk and meat together, then you'd have to share a peel. You have to take off a peel of both the milk and the meat because they're both absorbed and extracted at the level of being poured on.
Okay.
Yeah,
But not
Okay.
continuously.
not continuously.
Because that would
Okay.
make both of them completely forbidden.
Yes. Sorry.
Because I'm saying if it was continuous, if it would be under the consideration of a continuous stream, they'd both be completely forbidden.
No, not necessarily. They would only be forbidden up to stream because the bottom are cold.
Oh, no, I'm saying both are hot.
The both are hot, then for sure, yes. Yes. Both are cold. They're going to be. It would only be.
That's
It would only be the cleat, but only be the peel. Okay, let's go forward in the Shulchan Aruch. There's a little more to add here. So there. Okay, so with we had the question of the story with what's the deal with liquid and how you deal with the peel, right? So now you had, let's say if you have a cold piece of non-kosher that falls into a kosher stew, then obviously unless the entire stew has 60 to the ratio of what was fell into it, everything is forbidden. Yeah, because that's clear. Okay. What happens now if your liquid is not lying in a pot, but it's on a flat surface? Yeah. And the forbidden item only touched one edge of the liquid. So do we consider all that liquid to be one unit? And therefore you have to have 60 within the entire unit is enough to nullify, right? Or not. And this works both stringently and leniently, meaning kosher liquid spread out over a flat surface being touched by something non-kosher. In which case, if I treated the whole thing as one unit, I'm being lenient because I'm allowing for the all the liquid to get nullify that little bit that was contact. Or it could be stringent. The same thing in the reverse. Non-kosher liquid spread out a flat surface. Kosher meat touches it. Yeah. So now, if I treat the entire thing as one unit, then what happens? Kosher and non-kosher. So then, 1 second. Yeah, does that piece have to have 60 times the ratio of the entire liquid that's on the surface? Or not? Yeah.
Okay.
So the bottom line is that if there's a biblical prohibition at hand, we go stringent. If it's a lenient, if it's a rabbinic one, we go lenient. Now, what does that do with the previous case? That has to do with the previous case. Okay, let's go forward. That's what we want to cover. Clear? Okay, let's go forward in the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so the Ramah said that if it's in a klisheni, it no longer cooks, no longer has any effect, and we already established that we have the opinion of the Rashal, which is more stringent, that says it does cause some absorption and extraction, even in a klisheni, so long as it's higher than hand recoiling yat levis. Okay, then when you come and if the two are put next to each other, im shneim chamim michoim kli rishon, if they are both hot at the level of kli rishon, hakol as everything's forbidden. Because they're not on top of each other, they're side by side, but they're both hot, and therefore transference happens. Again, talking about a case where there's liquid. That's the key here, because the dry stuff, no liquid's coming invalid.
Right, just a
But this
piece
is
of,
it's
right,
it's
a piece of
liquid,
cheese
but
and
it's
a piece of
liquid here.
steak touching.
But here it's liquid. We'll get to that in a second. But this is liquid here. There's liquid
Right.
involved. Yeah. And now, if one is cold and one is hot, it's side by side. So now, how do I treat this side by side? Do I treat it also like as if the cold one is on bottom, and because the cold one's on bottom, it only gets a layer removed, a peel, or do I treat the cold as if it was on top, in which case the heat's on bottom, and therefore the entire thing is prohibited? How do I treat this when it's side by side? I have nothing on the bottom to cool it down, but I don't have anything on the bottom to cool it down, but I also don't have anything on the bottom to heat it up. So the Ramah's view is that we treat it like as if the heat were on top of the cold when it's side by side. And therefore, it's sort of clip of a makam shnag, you have to remove just the peel by the point of contact. Yeah, but not everybody agrees with that. Right? Because the Marshal, he is of the view that the cold, no matter which one it is, will do full absorption, and the heat will only absorb to a shell. So the heat dominates the cold one. If it's side by side, he doesn't treat one like higher than the other. He treats them as equal. But because one is hot and one is cold, he'll say that the hot one is more dominant, and therefore it will cause the cold to absorb everything, whereas the hot itself will only absorb a thin layer. So let's imagine two scenarios. The kosher is hot, non-kosher is cold, and they're next to each other. So because the kosher is the one that's hot, it's only going to absorb a thin layer of a peel it off, you're good to go. Peel the point of contact. If it's the reverse, your cold is kosher and your non-kosher is hot, and they're next to each other, liquid, the hot makes the cold absorb everything, even though it's not one on top and one on the side. And indeed, the majority of halachic authorities follow this view of the Marshal to be stringent, unless there's great monetary loss, because there is views that says more leniently, like the Ramah, who's more lenient. The Ramah says it doesn't matter which one's hot or which one's cold. We're going to treat it as if the bottom is cold and only take off a peel, no matter which one's hot or cold. That's the Ramah's view. Marshal is saying, no, the cold will absorb everything. The hot only will absorb to a peel. Okay. Okay, we covered that. Okay, let's go forward. Next case. Back to Ramah. If a forbidden item was placed in a kosher dish, or the reverse, a kosher dish was placed in a forbidden, kosher food was placed in a forbidden dish. Here too, we say that the bottom one overpowers. And therefore, if the bottom one is cold, so you have a cold dish that's not kosher, and a kosher food that's hot fell on top, all you need to do is peel a layer, because you treat the bottom as if it's tatagover, the lower one overpowers, and the lower one's cold, and only needs to take a peel. If the reverse, you have a hot kosher dish and a cold piece of non-kosher stuff falls on it, then the entire pot is not kosher because it's hot and absorbs all the non-kosher food, because the bottom overpowers.
Right.
Or the reverse, you have a pot that's non-kosher, kosher non-pot, a non-kosher hot pot, kosher cold food, it absorbs everything because the bottom is over dominating. Yeah, here too, we have the marshal. Again, it's only if it's liquid.
But
Then-
here I know for sure.
Oh,
the 60
So now let's see the
ratio,
case. Now,
for sure. The 60 times ratio for sure.
the 60 time ratio always applies. We're assuming here's no 60 time ratio. Whenever we say not kosher, it's because there's no 60 times ratio. Okay. Let's just imagine you have a dairy pot put on top of meat. To your question.
Okay, so dairy pot.
Dairy pot, a dairy dish put on top of meat.
Put on
So
top of
the
meat.
pot is okay, so it's
And the meat is hot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So in that case, you're right. That it only goes up to a shell.
Okay,
Only a peel. It doesn't go all the way through.
that's fine.
Because we don't say that the bottom has such power to heat that which is inside the pot.
Okay,
Yes, you're right.
okay, that makes
I
sense.
remember when I read the case, it
That
didn't
makes
make
sense.
No,
much
that
sense.
comes back to our case saying it, so it doesn't,
Yeah,
it doesn't
that's
matter.
right. I knew they
Yeah.
discussed it. It doesn't matter yet. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Unless the food inside got so hot that the food recoils. Now you have an issue. Now they're both hot and then they transfer flavor between each other. But the pot itself,
Okay, fine.
absorbs.
I understand.
if the pot has hot food inside and hot food in the bottom, then it'll absorb through
I
the.
understand. It's if
It'll have
you-
shared absorption. But if the pot is cold,
Mm.
sorry, if
If
the
what's in the pot is cold,
correct, then the heat of the meat on the bottom will only go up to a layer peel, not all the way through
No,
the
but
pot.
the pot's hot.
But if the pot is hot, then it's transferred for sure. Yeah, if you have non-kosher food on either side of one pot, you have a problem. Kosher or non-kosher food on either side of one pot,
Let's just see meat and dairy.
same thing. It's a problem.
It's a it's a problem.
That's why you do double. Why do you think you do double wrapping? Why do you do double wrapping in an oven in an airplane?
to
You double
avoid,
wrapping
to,
so
to
there's no
avoid,
singular vessel that's touching both kosher and non-kosher simultaneously. By having double wrapping, you don't have that. You have the outer layer touching the non-kosher, the inner layer touching your kosher. And because there's no food between the two layers of a vessel, there's no transference between the two vessels. Because two vessels touching each other won't transfer. But if there's food between and it's hot, it will transfer. Right? So your stovetop, see a practical example. Your stovetop, in like a non-kosher place, they're easy to kosherize. But if your stovetop is clean and the bottom of the pot is clean, there's never a transference between the two flavors. But as soon as it gets dirty, now you have transference.
But I mean, I heard you can clean it with soap and stuff. It makes it like.
Okay, so that's
disgusting.
post factum, not pre factum. You don't want to set yourself up that way, right? So, but if in theory the bottom of your pot is completely clean and the top of your stove is completely clean,
Right.
there's no transfer. But as soon as something spills over, now you have hot liquid coming from the non-kosher stove into your hot
oh, good.
food that's in your kosher pot, and you have a problem.
Mhm.
There's no 60 ratio, etc.
Mhm.
Follow?
Yeah, false.
All right.
The second it spills over is when you would have an issue.
Yeah, correct. Now you have food between them makes transfer.
But if they're both clean, then even then anything spills over, it makes no difference.
Well, the spillover would make it not clean anymore. Now that's what I'm saying. When something spills over and comes to the bottom, if in other words, if there's liquid between the point of contact between the two vessels, it'll make a transfer.
There's no issue with this pot. It'd be an issue if you're cooking something after this.
If I'm talking about simultaneously while you're cooking and something spills over,
They're cooking like let's say two pots next to each other.
not even you're in a non-kosher Airbnb and something
Oh,
spills
not
over,
kosher.
right? Okay, so practical case. Someone called me this week. They came home and found that one of their help had eaten McDonald's on their dishes. What should they do? What should you do?
I take them to the mikvah or throw them out.
Well, mikveh, no mikveh. It's a question of absorption.
If it's like metal
Yeah.
or something, and it's been on 24 hours, then
Well, the issue is not the
It's not hot.
McDonald's.
It's
The
not-
issue is the plate.
It's not
The
hot.
plate's cold, right?
It's cold. The
So
food's
the-
cold.
Oh, that's the question.
The food's cold. 'Cause
So-
no matter how hot your McDonald's is in your house, it's not hot enough.
That's
You-
number one.
Yeah.
And number two, they didn't use forks and knives, which means they're eating bread. Bread, we learn, in there doesn't have any chance of any
No, but let's
liquid.
say meat fell on. Let's say meat fell out of the thing. You had a hamburger. and
Even
cheese.
then, it's not hot enough.
Nothing's hot enough though.
And it's-
You're eating it
They're
with
saying
your
it's no problem at all.
No, so what did I tell them? What do you tell them to do?
clean.
No, I'm wondering, what did you
Clean it
tell
how?
them?
Clean it how?
Uh,
How should you clean it?
With boiling hot water?
Boiling hot water?
No.
Why are you boiling hot water? Now you're heating it up.
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
that's worse. Oh, so freezing cold water then.
Oh,
Yeah.
freezing cold water soap and in your bathroom sink.
Yeah.
And then the plate's 100% fine.
Yeah. Unless they came in with like hot soup from McDonald's and poured it into your hot soup thing. That would be
No, it
something-
doesn't exist. We don't sell soup.
So great. So it's right. It's yeah. So you see how people you end up being much more stringent and cautious than we need to be because people your gut is like, throw this thing out. But in reality, it's a cold slice of bread being placed onto your
Even if it's a,
or
it's
a cold
mediocre-
piece of lettuce.
It's a mediocre warm burger.
Not even, yeah.
It's a
Yeah, a
mediocre.
warm burger. There's burger and there's cheese. They both fall on the plate. You're still
The
taking it
person
to the
told me
sink.
that the help said it's not milk and meat, so it's not bad. So it wasn't the milk and meat burger. They didn't get a
Okay,
cheeseburger.
but
Because in their heads,
okay,
the cheeseburger was problematic, but the non-cheeseburger was okay. Yeah,
okay.
so that's it.
So that's it.
It's pretty cool, no? All right.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but listen, even if it was a cheeseburger and they both spilt onto the plate, it's still cold. Still not hot enough. It's
Not
not
hot
hot enough for transfer of
Yeah.
heat.
No.
So there would be no issue as long as you clean it.
Right. Clean the cold water.
It would annoy you. It would
Yeah.
annoy you and irk you, and you might throw it on the plate regardless because it angers
It's a
you.
cold,
but
cold, soapy water in your bathroom sink.
Yeah.
You clean it very, 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 very well. Right? Okay. Now, to the situation of your case, and then we'll go to. Oh, okay. Well, let's finish the language of the Shulchan Aruch. This is the next thing. Okay. Also, laros, it's forbidden to pour out mikli sheyesh bo shumon, a kosher. So you have kosher oil being poured out l'ner dolok to a candle that's burning. Sheyesh bo chaylev or shumon iser, which has fat or oil that's non-kosher, because that oil and fat is hot. Bottom overpowers the continuous stream. Right? We spoke about this in our introduction. So in our introduction, we concluded that the main issue is the connected stream, and therefore, if you pour it out, it won't be a problem. But to Noah's point, there is the issue of steam, and the steam issue comes up on Shabbos, even though it's kosher. How so? So a burst of steam that you can actually, it's liquidy steam, would be considered transference of flavor. So if you wanted to reheat, you wanted to add hot water to your cholent on Shabbos.
right.
So you may go from Kli Rishon to Kli Rishon, not doing any cooking. So if you have a samovar with hot water, you can pour directly from that into your cholent pot.
Then
So you take it off the flame.
flame.
So it's like, so you take so you take the cholent pot off the stove. You don't let go of it, so that way you can still put it back. That's part of the law of Shabbos. So you have a blech, you have your silver foil in your cholent pot, so it's a blech, and you're not letting go of it, so you can put it back.
Yeah.
And then you bring it it's a two-man job. It's very hard to hold.
I was just about to say, you can't do this alone. You need somebody else to help you.
Two-man job, yes.
Yeah.
Or a couple's job. It's a romantic Friday night outing. And then you take off the cover and someone opens up the urn to let the hot water come in. Now, this is where Rabbi Farkash writes this in a sefer from memory. If you take off the cover right in front of that steamer thing, and a burst of steam comes out, you'll have just turned your some of our dairy. A meat. You just made it into a meat dairy, a meat samovar, meat spigot, because that burst of steam.
Yeah.
So you uncover it, let the steam waft a little bit, so it's no longer making this like wet steam, and then you can turn the hot water and let the hot water go in.
I heard the direct stream. Once the direct stream is in there, it transfers up.
So your direct stream.
100%.
One second, we just read this. Oh, you're right. We did this. It's direct
100%.
stream.
100%.
1 second. Direct stream.
Goes up. It 100% transfers. I remember.
Oh, you're right. We learned this last week. We learned this
I
on
learned
Sunday.
this Shabbos though. I learned this when I was doing Sfichas of Shabbos.
We learned this on. We just learned this
I know.
now. You're right. We
I
learned this
learned
on Sunday.
I learned this.
Yeah.
100% transfers.
We learned this on Sunday.
It's 100% transfers.
We learned this on Sunday. The stream transfers. Okay, so you can do like
Okay.
drops of hot. Okay, you can pour drops of hot water. That stream connecting.
Okay. Ah, right.
So you avoid the steam and you avoid the connection.
Okay,
That's
or
right.
you can do what Rabbi
Yeah.
Ben does,
Which is
which is he takes the pouches with water and puts it into the cholent pot, and he pops them in the cholent.
interesting.
These pouches.
Or you just don't do it at all.
Or you just add more water before Shabbos.
You
No,
add more water
no.
before Shabbos, and you don't.
Has pouches of hot water.
He uses pouches of water and it cooks in the cholent, so it's hot. And then when he feels like it's burning too much, he pops one, and then there's more water, and he keeps popping them as
Interesting.
it's burning. And that
And
was
there's nothing, and there's no prohibition to the popping on Shabbos. No.
No, the
No,
water's already cooked.
yeah,
Yeah, interesting. All right.
yeah. So that was our Ben solution.
Very interesting.
To this what we had when I was doing SEMICHA Shabbos.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So I remember this from memory from learning Rabbi Fark. I should think about the steam. I just remember him saying to let the steam go. But we talked about last week, not that the stream connects,
100% stream connects.
right? And we learned this here now.
Oh.
The stream connects. That's what Ramah is saying.
Yeah.
But actually, Ramah only said that in the first instance you shouldn't do that, but in the second instance, but post factum we won't transfer.
Yeah, okay, but.
B'yevid lachash.
Yeah.
It was already done. He said it won't. You should.
So you're saying. it
So
wouldn't-
post factum, it wouldn't render your. You
Yeah.
shouldn't do it, but post factum will not render your thing on
Oh, yeah.
your thing deep meat. That's right. So I knew you. I knew this.
Purely Shabbos says clearly.
No, look again. Look again now. Yeah. Now I'm not remembering. You're throwing me off, getting confused.
Yeah, maybe the water is
Yeah.
deep, but not the, that's the thing here, you're saying the oil, you're not saying the vessel, you're saying the oil is the problem, so you can pour it out.
That's right. It's only in the first instance you shouldn't make the stream connect, but in the
Yeah.
post factum doesn't transfer, right?
Yeah.
But you have it in lachash. That's what
Steam
concludes
is
here.
going up through the spout.
So the steam removed already.
No, but it's still.
No, so that's what I'm telling you. Right, Farkash right that the steam, if it's not like the kind of steam that you feel wet,
Yeah, I
it
understand.
doesn't have that kind of transfer
Really?
capacity. Which is what I was saying. You open it, let the steam waft, then you bring it nearby, and in that
Mhm.
case, maybe you'll be like you said here, you shouldn't do it in the first instance. But post factum, he says, "Ain't lachash." You shouldn't worry that the flavor transferred. Right, that's what he said here.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what he concludes. Ain't lachash. Okay, that's right. You're confusing me. Okay, yeah.
Definitely like this. It's English, yeah.
Have a look and then it gets back to us. Post in the group.
Look.
Post in the group and you find it. Okay, Dalet Hey, let's go through this. Which is it's Dalet Hey is longer, but not it's only longer because of
the dairy knife in the meat thing. There's no like
what are you talking about? Okay, we haven't discussed that's not our discussion yet.
It says you come back. It says you mentioned it earlier, so that's why we're gonna ignore it.
We mentioned it's mentioned earlier way back. Yeah, we
Yeah.
haven't learned it yet. Yes, we haven't learned the issue of light yet.
No, because I'm saying it says it here quickly. I don't
Right, because it's in previous Simon. We haven't got the Sakina issue yet. All right, I think Dalet and Hey is longer, 4 and 5 is longer, but actually not harder. It's only longer because it's more descriptive, but we can move through it much more quickly and we'll cover all the various different details here. So until now, we're talking about flavor transferring through cooking, which is liquid, and the liquid have like these bubble factors that things moving between each other and the flavors all go around. And now we're talking about where there's no liquid between them. It's called, quote, grilling. And the grilling problem is whether they're actually on the grill touching, or they're even off the grill and touching if they both retain that heat from Kli. And even if the pieces of meat have a little bit of liquid around them, and it's still considered not cooking with liquid. It's only if it's like cooked in a liquid that surrounds it all the way around that's considered cooking in the previous sifim. But even if the steak is moist, it doesn't turn into being cooked with a liquid where it has all the properties of transferring like cooking. Yeah. Okay, let's get to that in a second. Okay, Medvar Mamurim continues the Shulchan Aruch. Let's see. Medvar Mamurim, when does all the laws above apply? When one item falls into another cooked dish, into a stew, because the liquid, the sauce, moves the flavor of the prohibited, and mixes it into the entire dish, entire stew. But prohibited stuff, whether it's cold prohibited or hot prohibited, and it falls onto a grilled item that's by the fire. It only prohibits such that the amount of significant removability. That's the way I translated it. Which is about the thickness of a thumb, which is, according to Chaim, 2 centimeters, according to Chazon Ish, 2.5 centimeters. Therefore, right? We'll get to the law of that which is popping out soon.
What we did that earlier. Well, that was popping out.
No. We'll get that in a second. Therefore, if a thigh was grilled together with the vein, the sciatic nerve, which is prohibited, or prohibited food item was grilled alongside kosher food item, when the gezebes and touching each other, you have to remove the amount of the significant removal. Around leave a significant removal amount of meat around the sciatic nerve, as well as remove this significant removability, that 2 centimeters from the point of meat where it contacted the non-kosher meat. Yeah, clear?
Mm-hmm.
So can I cook on a non-kosher grill now?
No,
Why not?
it's because it's hot.
Yeah, so here you're not talking about the utensils being non-kosher. The utensils are all kosher here. It's non-kosher thing touching the side left. Non-kosher utensil, it's absorbing. Yeah. Okay. Easter. Al chaticha shebakadera. Shichut l'roitev. Now, if the piece of non-kosher fell on top of a piece of meat that's in the pot, but that piece of meat is completely above the liquid. Yeah. I didn't mix up, I didn't move it around to make the liquid move around. But like Kiso said, I didn't cover it to trap the steam inside. If I cover it and trap the steam inside, then it moves around, which is very significant when it comes to baking bread. Why? Because if you remove challah, you take challah, you take that piece of dough from the mixture.
Mm-hmm.
That's non-kosher food. Not eat it. Now you put it into your oven, and it's cooking with other bread. It's a serious problem
Interesting.
because they're all trapped in one enclosure.
All the
Unless you-
flavors, everything's gonna mix.
It's all closed, and you can't rely on the fact that it's not wet because once it's
Right.
closed,
Can you redeem a
once
different
it's
piece?
closed off. Sorry.
Can you redeem a different piece?
You can redeem after challah. You can.
Yeah, you could redeem after you bake.
But here you redeemed it already.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, still
okay.
redeem a different piece.
Okay.
See you later. This is your challah. So the only way to do that is if you completely enclose it in its own enclosure of silver foil. Once you trap its steam inside of itself, that's like the double cover.
You already forgot it was challah.
No.
You
You
didn't
took the
forget.
challah. People do this all the time. They take challah and they put it in their oven to burn it.
Oh,
Do that.
yeah.
So long as you're wrapping your challah completely in silver foil, so it doesn't
Hmm.
let off any steam that would get trapped in the rest of your oven with the rest of your stuff there. But you cover it completely in silver foil, like the double wrapping that you're doing in the non-kosher oven. Same effect.
I know a lot of people who freeze it and save it for
For Pesach, a lot of work.
it's a lot of work.
Well,
Okay.
in the VOD, what they do, they just say to freeze it and throw it away.
Oh yeah, not burn
Yeah,
it.
not burn it.
Interesting. I guess for this reason, because they don't want
Like,
people burning their
there's a
ovens and causing
ton
transfer
of-
flavor.
There's a ton of
Pieces of challah.
There's a ton of challah.
Interesting.
They-
Interesting.
At Marguerite, they have a lot of baked goods.
So that makes sense because they don't. They probably don't want to rely on the restaurants to cover it properly, and then have the steam of that
Right.
challah go through the rest of the food in the restaurant.
Mhm.
Right. That's probably what they're worried
If
about.
they don't want to burn, you're gonna cause fire. Something like it may cause a fire.
What?
Burning the thing, it may cause like a fire.
Yeah.
A fire hazard.
No, that makes sense.
Yep.
So you freeze it to make it unedible.
Yeah, you
And then you
freeze it
froze
for
it?
the period of time that they have flour, so you know, like this
That
is
all this
covered
flour
for
was
this
taken care of.
flour, and then when the new flour comes, you
Get rid of the old one.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So if the piece of meat is above the rest of the dish, the rest of the stew, it's outside the stew. It wasn't covered to trap the steam. The stew wasn't moved around. And usher like natila. Now it's considered like grilling. That's not soaking in liquid, and you only have to remove the significant movability, 20 to 2 centimeters. If it's in the mixture, Rashi, according to Rashi's opinion, kula, all of it has to be in the mixture. Ri, and according to the Ri, or even if part of it is in the mixture, where part of it's out. Right? Oh yeah. So now, kula, or if the entire thing is outside of the liquid, outside of the sauce, but venira kisakadera, or but the pot was stirred, he mixed the pot, or he covered it. All right, then it's considered cooking, and the liquid bubbles make the flavor go all over. Yeah. Now, which opinion do we follow here with respect to whether partially is popping out? We just have two opinions. One opinion says it's got to be either completely submerged. Another opinion says even if it's only partially submerged, it's considered part of the cooking. Which opinion do we follow? Answer: we follow stringency of both views, which would mean if this is a kosher piece of meat and it's half popping out, something not kosher lands on top of it, right? So we go stringent and say that it's in the mixture, and you have to 60 against the whole entire against that thing, right? Conversely, if and conversely, even if you do have in the entire pot 60 against the amount that was put in, we're still going to throw out that piece itself, because that piece itself could be a grilled piece that it absorbed, going stringent on both ends. Okay,
That makes sense.
let's continue. All this is true. Hey, number 5. When is it true that the forbidden item is only forbidden to the point of extracting a significant amount, that 2 centimeters? When we're referring to a thigh to get out the sciatic nerve, it's been like where davar kachosh, where it's completely dried meat. It doesn't have the capacity to cause transference throughout the entire piece of meat because it's very dry, or an entire food item. But if the animal in question is very fatty, yeah, please, thank you. Where he cooked he grilled this piece of meat with the fat that is forbidden. If he cooked the entire lamb whole, right? And it's a fatty lamb. Then unless the entire lamb has shishim connected to kol ha'chelev shabai, unless the entire lamb has 60 ratio more than all the forbidden fat in there, you can't even eat the extremity of the ear of the lamb because it's fatty. The flavor is transferred to the entire piece of meat, the entire lamb. But if it's a lean meat, even if it doesn't have 60 to the ratio of that fat, that forbidden fat, it's only that significant 2 centimeters has to be removed near the fat. Because a lean piece of meat has lean fat, the aim of a doesn't transfer flavor all over, doesn't bubble and transfer flavor everywhere. Even if the meat that is non-kosher is lean, and the kosher meat that was grilled with it is shamina fat, then the fatty kosher meat provides the fat necessary for the non-kosher meat to make the flavor transfer everywhere. And the forbidden is absorbed everywhere, and the entire thing is non-kosher. Yeah, clear? Yeah. Thank you very much. That's seltzer?
Yeah.
Oh, even better. Thank you. Thank you, boy, on top of that.
No thanks.
Now, anything that has transference through bubbles and liquid, but that non-kosher item fell to a certain known place, of the kosher piece of meat, but that's been grilled. So you need to have 60 ratio because it's liquidy and fatty. But nonetheless, even though the piece of meat, a non-kosher piece of fat, let's just say, fell into a big steak. So the steak has 60 to the ratio of that little piece of fat, and it's not a problem. But you know the point of contact of that little piece of meat. So it's sort of you have to remove that spot, even though the flavor transfers everywhere. But the flavor is nullified by the fact that you have 60 to the ratio. You have 60, the meat is 60 times the size of that non-kosher thing that fell on top of it. So the flavor is gone. But 60 to the ratio only nullifies flavor. It doesn't nullify the item itself. Right? So if you have a non-kosher piece of meat and you throw it into a kosher stew, it's not as if because there's 60 pieces of meat in that stew, you're not allowed to eat that non-kosher piece of meat. You still got to extract the non-kosher piece of meat. The 60 ratio only nullifies. Okay, we'll get to that when we get to later halacha, what to do when you can't find it and what the halacha is there. There's going to be a whole set of halachas. But if you can't identify it, you got to remove it, because the 60 nullification only works to the flavor, not to the item itself. So if you know the point of contact where the non-kosher piece fell onto the kosher meat, remove that point of contact, even though there's 60 to the ratio and the rest of the piece of meat is kosher, even though it was fatty. Yeah, clear?
Yeah, but I also felt like there's some things of like if you have like a dairy fork and a meat fork and they look identical.
Sorry?
You have a dairy fork and a meat fork and they look identical, and the meat fork falls into a pot of, let's say, 4 dairy forks.
Okay, a mixing of dishes have a different halacha.
Okay, fine.
Kalim, we're much more lenient on the mixing of kalim.
Okay.
Different things.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Some of law is very lenient.
We're very lenient on the mixing of kalim, but we'll get to that later. Okay, let's go. So after the parentheses there, any roast that doesn't have any sauce, or if it's baking, vinikitsli, as we said, that's the same thing as grilling, because the point is, it doesn't have any liquid to make the thing transfer between all the flavors. B'chol davar, and all of it matters. Now, yesh omen, here comes the Ramah, the famous Ramah. We do not have the capacity to discern what is the difference between lean and fatty. And therefore, and therefore, any direct contact between kosher and non-kosher in a grilling context, we're going to forbid the whole thing, because we don't know what's considered fatty and what's considered not. We treat it if it's fatty unless you have 60 kosher to the ratio of the non-kosher.
Kosher to the ratio of
the non-kosher.
Yeah.
But even if you do have that ratio, so from tilas makam, you still have to remove the point of contact, as you said earlier, because the 60 ratio only nullifies the flavor, doesn't nullify the actual contact. And indeed, this is the custom. So I want to see here he says, he quotes from a book called the Kaf HaChaim, which is a famous halachic decider of the Sephardic world. And he said that in this regard, the Sephardim follow the Ashkenazim as well. But I didn't look in Yalkut Yosef. So if you want to know what modern Moroccans need to look in Yalkut Yosef. But nonetheless, it should be noted that there's many in the Sephardic world that would follow their Moher, that we know the difference between lean and fatty. Nonetheless, we still have certain areas when we do consider the difference between lean and fatty. There are areas where we do consider that difference. For example, we had before with fatty meat that's popping out of a brine, we'll say the flavor transfers, whereas lean meat is popping out of the brine, we say the flavor doesn't, so whatever you do, and other scenarios like that. Let's see.
There's a machlokes.
What's the machlokes?
No, when there is a machlokes,
You go lenient, right? That's correct. That's right. Okay, so another thing is, let's say the piece of meat itself isn't not kosher, but it absorbed non-kosher, right? It absorbed non-kosher, and then it touched something else. So a piece of meat absorbed non-kosher, and then that piece of meat touched something else. Does it transfer? Only if it's fatty. And in this case, we're not going to say I don't know the difference between fatty and not fatty.
Right, here.
If you see it's not fatty, even if it absorbed non-kosher, it's not going to transfer, or only transfer as much as the peel, nothing more. Yeah. So in this regard, this book here is a nice summary, which I'm going to share with you, on 3 levels of fat to lean ratios, fatty to lean ratios. So level 1 is something that's fully fatty, and of course, transfer is complete and full. Then you have things that are lean, but they're lean it itself is lean, but it's a food category that could be fatty. So a lean steak, because it could be fatty, fish, things like that. Then we go stringent like the Ramah, where we don't know the difference between lean and fatty, and the transference is full, complete, unless there's a monetary loss, and you could see that it's not fatty, only peel off, right?
In most cases.
And likewise, if it's a rabbinic prohibition, be lenient. But again, if you can actually see that this is lean, and then there are such things that are completely dry, like breads and cookies, if they don't have oil glaze that would make it moist, then you don't have to worry about it at all, because the law is that you only need to take off the amount of significant removal. And the Shach, however, is stringent here and says that we only take the leniency of completely dried stuff when it's a rabbinic prohibition, right? Unless there's any monetary loss. And then you'll take the halacha. Then you'll take the halacha of the Shulchan Aruch, which is just the end layer is removed, not the entire full transfer.
Because monetary loss is going to be a very common thing when you're talking about expensive pieces of meat.
Anytime you have a dispute, almost any time we have a dispute on a certain case, you're lenient in monetary loss. Almost so far, it's almost
like,
the case.
I don't know, you have like a $200 piece of meat, like that's a nice monetary
Yes,
loss.
so
I mean, like
expensive meat is monetary loss, and we have to also remember the context. Today, monetary loss is not as much of a deal as it used to be. It used to be monetary loss meant if there was going to be, if the rabbi was going to decide that the butcher's cow wasn't kosher,
oh, so you're talking about an entire
then the whole town not eating meat for Pesach.
Okay, fine.
It's a massive monetary loss.
Yeah.
Today, what happens if Rabashkin's meat is not kosher? They sell it to the non-Jew and they chef the next one.
Yes. No,
Right.
I'm talking about us cooking at home. So I'm saying, where's the monetary law? Like how like what my $30 piece of steak or my $200 piece of meat? Like I'm saying, where's I don't know. I'm throwing out the $30 piece of steak. Do I want to throw out the $200 piece of meat that I'm cooking? I don't really.
How hard is it to get that $200 piece of steak?
How easy?
How hard is it to get it?
It's pretty easy to get. I can go back to the store and I can buy another piece of meat.
So if it's so easy, then you should probably toss it out. Then I don't know.
If it's that easy, that's it's
Nowadays,
point.
it's not
Yeah.
hard to get the kind of meat. You have to wait a day, 2 days, whatever. You'll get it back.
Yeah.
That's sad. That's okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So what would you say about a hot piece of matzah and a hot piece of challah touching each other?
there's no fat.
No, we said it's bread.
It's bread,
no
no?
transference.
Unless you follow the shach, which are stringent, right? And said only by rabbinic is you take this lenient, unless there's some monetary loss.
There's no monetary law. There's no
But if this is mamish dry,
Right.
nonetheless, it seems that the shach might be stringent. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's conclude. No, this is indeed the halacha that we don't know the difference between we treat all lean items as if they're fatty and the transfer is complete. The dafka b'sachelav, unless this is only referring to prohibitions of fatty nature, like or any other thing which has some sort of moisture. This is or but with regard to Ramah's opinion at least, with regard to such items that don't have the possibility for any liquidy, like the baked goods, and therefore you only would, if there's any touch, it would be considered completely for sure lean, because it's not possible for it to be fatty, and therefore the transference is only that 2 centimeters and no more. But then again, our shach is stringent unless it's a rabbinic prohibition, which again, according to our fellow here, he's of the view that the majority opinion would say that unless there's a monetary loss, we are stringent like the shach to say that even dried stuff completely have transference. Okay, any questions before we close out? Anything we didn't cover?
I see Vav is basically the same.
What does he say in Vav? Yeah, Vav is, I told you, Vav is like a continuation of the sif.
Cool.
I'm not sure why it's part.
It's just
Yeah.
it's just expanding on the same principle.
Yeah,
Like, I was just reading it. Like,
that's
literally
right.
we could do it.
That's right.
The same thing.
So that 3 is part of 1 and 2, and 6 is part of 4 and 5. But for some reason they put 6 part of 7.
So my
8.
conclusion is the ketchup okay to use.
Oh, so there's a ketchup code to use. So now you answer the question. You know? Is the non-kosher food enough to make steam go up? Then for sure you can use it.
How hot is the food though? It's not hot. It's hot. It's not hot enough for you. It's not like
Is there a microwave in the office?
yeah.
Then it's going to be very hot. If
They
there's
microwave
a
their food. They microwave their food.
if they microwave their food and they put ketchup on that food,
Yeah.
it's going to be hot.
So it's
You ever
gonna
seen
be-
stuff come out of a microwave? It's very steamy.
So it's gonna transfer.
Yeah.
And it's going to definitely transfer. Yeah.
Okay.
If there's a microwave in the
Okay,
office, for
fine.
sure.
So
But if they're bringing stuff from home and it's cold,
no,
that's the same thing as the McDonald's case earlier.
There's human ketchup.
But what I'm saying, if the office doesn't have a microwave,
No, it has
which means all the food's going to be
Yeah,
cold when they
that's
come, I would be like the McDonald's case I mentioned before.
Right. So it's
Right?
it's so it's hot. So you're saying there will be a transfer.
Oh, for sure. If
And-
right out of the microwave, put ketchup right on the hot
I
food,
don't know. I mean, we're
definitely.
assuming that they probably did. We never saw it though. So
I would assume, considering there's a microwave, that there's definitely hot food transferring steam to that ketchup. I would assume so.
So saying you can't use that ketchup.
I wouldn't use the ketchup, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now I know for the future.
Yeah. No, but we're learning new.
Number
Not
two.
just
Number two, I
yeah.
basically give my colleagues some bad advice though.
Yeah.
It's okay though. Number 2
Correct
though.
yourself.
Yeah.
Between milk and flea shakes, if you only
Yes.
have 1 ketchup or 1 mustard and you use it for both in your house, in my kosher house, in my kosher food, but I use it for dairy and I use it. It's not really on top. I'm not really using it on top of the hot.
I do use that, and we're careful to make sure first of all, make sure it doesn't touch ever. The
Yeah,
ketchup doesn't ever
that-
touch,
that-
and it's never like onto such hot steaming things. For that
So you
reason,
you'll use your mayo for dairy and for meat.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like we're intentional about making sure it doesn't touch. So
Right.
for example, I'll tell you an example. You can if you decide to put ketchup on your hamburger, you can do it in 2 ways. You can put it direct onto the hamburger. You can put it onto the bread. You put it onto the bread, you're much less likely to cause any issue. You put
Correct.
it onto the meat.
Mhm.
Correct. Makes sense. Yeah.
That's a simple solution, which we do in my house. Okay, Eden.
What do you
Well,
do again?
sorry, I
What
pour
do
the
you do?
ketchup not onto the burger, onto the bread.
Okay, on the
And
bread. so-
and at the time in which I'm putting the ketchup onto my burger, the burger isn't that hot to cause steam to go up anyway.
Yeah.
But nonetheless,
But you're not gonna take a chance. You're gonna put
Yeah,
that
you gotta put it on the
burger-
bread and also
on the
make it
bu- on the
touch.
bread.
yeah, make it doesn't touch.
Shkoyach Rabbi, thank you so much.
Yeah, good night, everybody.
This says
Beautiful.
this starts at like midway through 5.
Okay, so this thing, it's the intro. The intro here. The intro here is 4 and 5.
Oh, it's 4 and 5 combined.
This is because 4 and 5 is one long halacha,
Yeah. Okay.
right? It's one long halacha
Yeah,
that's just divided into
fine.
2. So this is 4 and 5, and then it gets to number 6 here.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, and a wonderful evening.
Very nice.
And when there's also